This is the Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage show by Mark Helm. Nothing Mark shares with you guarantees your success in the self-storage business. This is for informational purposes only. There are no calls to action, and nothing said or implied is a call for investment money into self-storage or any other asset class. You are responsible for your success in the self-storage business or any endeavor in life. Enjoy the show, and here is Mark Helm.
2 weeks ago, I started a series on how to increase revenue in your self-storage facility in 2026, which I think is going to be really critical due to some factors that are affecting the self-storage industry, particularly increased insurance expenses, property taxes, and marketing expenses. So today we're going to conclude that with a third exploration on how to increase our revenue this year, 2026. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Quick Start Academy, which houses a lot of the online training that I do, like this, free, as well as the paid-for courses. You can explore fundraising for the small self-storage investor. You can go to creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com and click the store. Look at the courses that are there and see if they could support you on your storage journey. In this final episode, let's explore some add-on revenues to consider if you're not using them for increasing your revenue in 2026. Now, I'm going to start with some of the usual prospects and work towards some more creative ones. But here's my suggestion. Whatever you're doing now, really take on that you'll add one or two more this year. I would come up with a game plan on instituting one new one, maybe let's say the first half of the year, and then get that going, and then focus on adding one more new add-on revenue source the second half of the year. Create that as a game and see if and do it, execute on it. But let's start with some of the usual suspects we see when we talk about add-on revenues. Now, I'm going to start with a real obvious one, tenant insurance. If you're not using tenant insurance, start today to find a provider for it and use it. It has dramatically improved our bottom line. Now, I know it can take something to like get off the dime and start using it. Believe me, I know that. I was concerned, scared that I would lose customers, that they would go to some of my competitors that maybe not offer it, and that I was going to be shooting myself in the foot by making it mandatory to purchase. But let me just share with you some facts. One, your insurance doesn't cover their items. Two, if they store something, it should be insured. Look, if they say, well, I don't have anything worth insuring. Well, tell them that for a month's rent, you'll let them use the dumpster once. If it's not worth insuring, why are they storing it? Use your dumpster and charge them for it. I'm just kidding, but why would somebody be storing something if it's not worth insuring? Fact number 3, there's been a 7-fold increase in billion-dollar climate-driven weather events since the 1980s, and the majority of them have happened this last decade. There's just going to be more and more in the future. The last fact is, if someone says their homeowner insurance covers their stored goods, it could be true, might be true, not always, but it could be. But why would someone have their homeowner's insurance go up for years because they made a claim on something they had in storage? Look, there's very few win-wins in life, but tenant insurance, in my opinion, is one of them. If there ever is a claim, if there's a weather event or a fire, you're on their side of the table advocating for them, and it eliminates a lot of the need for an adversarial relationship. I remember Katrina. Some of you might not have been in the storage business then, but in Katrina, some of the tenant insurance providers set up folding tables at the facilities within a week of Katrina and were cutting checks. Other people spent years fighting with their insurance companies. So bite the bullet, make tenant insurance mandatory. Now, what we do is we will make it mandatory, and if somebody really objects to it, they can bring or email me their declaration page from their homeowner's insurance showing me their goods are covered, and we'll remove it from their monthly bill. The reality is less than 5% of the people do that. But let's do some math and see how this could impact your facility. Let's say you have a 40,000 square foot facility and your average unit size is what, 120 square feet. That means you have about 333 units. Let's say only 80% purchase the tenant insurance. 20% send you their declaration page. 80% of the people purchase your tenant insurance, and they purchase the minimum. The minimum generally is something around $10 a month to them. You make $5 for $2,500 of coverage. If they want more coverage, costs a little more, you make a little more. But let's just say minimum coverage. So if you have 333 units and 80% penetration with tenant insurance, that's 266 units. 266 units times $5 a month is $1,330 a month. Now, if you take 1,330 times 12, that's $15,960 a year. Can you use an additional $15,960 a year? At a 7 cap, that adds $228,000 worth of value to your asset. Can you use an additional $250,000 boost in the value of your asset? If you're not selling tenant insurance, sell tenant insurance. Now, if you have an office and have a manager, not everyone does, then there's workarounds if you don't, but I would offer retail, sell retail. At a minimum, there's a 50% markup on the retail items you sell. I've often said, hell, I'll sell televisions at my facilities if people will buy them. But one thing I know people buy is boxes, locks, stuff to do with storage. I go to Lowe's and I get a slat board, attach it to the wall, buy some hooks, and then hang up retail items to sell. And then I create displays of the stuff that I want to sell close to the transaction desk. I think the lowest performing store I've ever had about $250 of retail sales per month. And I think one of the larger stores we've had over the years sold $1,400 to $1,500 a month. Now let's just say you average $300 a month. And at a 50% markup, that's $150 a month, or an additional $1,800 a year. You say, well, that might not sound like much. Well, one, you're providing your customer a service. So you're improving the customer experience. And two, $1,800 at a 7 cap adds over $25,000 worth of value to your asset. And if you have managers and you have room to put a truck or two, rent U-Hauls. For goodness sake, rent U-Hauls. Look, you got no money in it other than the cost of an employee, and typically you'll get 40 to 50% commissions. We usually get storage rentals each month because we're U-Haul dealers, and everything that you earn from renting U-Haul trucks goes straight to your bottom line. In our lower performing stores, we make an additional $5,000 a year, and I've made up to over $60,000 a year in U-Haul commissions. Let's say you made an additional $7,500 in U-Haul commissions over the course of a year at a 7 cap. That's over $107,000 worth of additional value to your asset. Can you use an additional $100,000 plus boost to the value of your storage facility? Can you use an additional $7,500 a year in income? rent trucks. Now, those are some of the obvious things that a lot of folks don't have that they could have. Now, my coaching is if there's one of those you could have and you don't, that should be the first thing that you implement in 2026. But let's talk about some more out-of-the-box type revenue add-ons that you could consider in 2026. Interesting fact, starting 2026 for EV cars, for most makes and models, there's going to be a standard plug-in. It's the Tesla standard plug-in. So you could have EV chargers at your facility, make money, and have people sitting there looking at your facility. You could consider having a discount for current customers. Look, I know EVs have taken a beating this year, but this is only a temporary thing based on the administration that's currently in. EVs are here to stay, and gas engines are going to have a limited life. These EV chargers work for plug-in hybrids like what I have, and they work for full EV cars. And they're here to stay, and over the next decade, they're only going to increase. If you have high-tech features in your facility, like Nokia smart entry door systems or something of that nature, and you're not charging a tech fee, you could consider charging a tech fee. I've seen it anywhere from $10 to $25 a month. And I think a lot, and this is just my opinion, I think a lot of that would have to do on the demographics. So for example, if your demographics are, $48,000 a year median income and the average age of your customers 57, you might not work. But if you're in let's say a more gentrified area and you got a $60,000 median income and you've got a 30-something average customer age, I would seriously consider charging a tech charge if you don't already do that. Here's one. How many times have you had to handle packaging for customers, particularly customers like medical reps, where you accept goods for them? Do you charge for that? Well, we didn't for years and years, but now we do. Now, I know you may want to talk to your insurance company, you may want to talk to your attorney. If you touch anybody's goods, that increases your liability. But for us, it also improves the customer experience. So if we have a medical rep, and let's say, for example, they want us to open their unit for them, and they give us a key, and we open their unit for them so that a delivery can be put into their facility when they're not there. We have a monthly add-on charge of 15-20% to their unit price for that service. If they want us just to accept it and hold it in the office, we'll charge them 10%. Add on to their monthly rental unit. And we will do that. I have them sign a waiver saying we're not responsible, for lost or damaged items. I don't know how far that would actually go, if anyone's ever made a claim. No one's ever made a claim. But we charge for accepting goods and packages for commercial customers. Increases their length of stay in our facility. We get an add-on to it, and we have a whole separate marketing track for getting commercial customers to rent from us, and that's part of the service that we can offer them. Other potential revenue streams I've never used, but we're looking at, because we're going to implement 2 this year on facilities we're bringing in online this year. Mailboxes. You could set up mailboxes in your store, much like a UPS store has, and charge for that. You could also be an Amazon or Prime drop-off spot. You are only limited by your thinking. So my coaching is create 1 or 2 preferably, new revenue add-on streams in 2026, but 1 in the first half of the year, 1 in the second half of the year, and enjoy the increased revenue that these add-on streams can provide your facility. If you're not using some of the normal suspects, start there And then once those are in place, move to some of the more creative ones and see if they work. I know facilities that sell propane. If you're just getting in the storage business and you're putting your first one in service, that's great, because then you can come out of the gate with some of these revenue add-ons. So I'd be interested to hear from you some of the ideas that you've implemented that have worked that you could share with other people. So thank you very much. My name's Mark Helm, and I look forward to being with you next week.